A wonderful morning to everyone who has joined today. From ManageEngine family, we would like to extend our warm welcome and sincere thanks to all our customers, partners, and users who are interested in our solutions. Endpoint management and security is one of the main focus area of the ManageEngine. In today's webinar, we will focus on endpoint management solutions, which has different product portfolios under management and security. During today's session, we will be discussing Desktop Central suite, which has management and security capabilities. Once again, welcome to Desktop Central training. Let me introduce myself. My name is Cyril Raja, and I'm a product specialist with ManageEngine. I take care of the endpoint management products, including Desktop Central. I'm a seasoned technical support engineer, assisting customers in their implementation, consultation, and troubleshooting in case of any challenges. Let's look at the training schedule. We are on the last week of the season 18, which is configuration and hidden tricks. This is one of the modules of our endpoint management and security suite. We have covered a couple of modules over the past weeks, and we are currently in the last week of this season. In case if you have missed any of our training schedules, you can always view them on the link that is shown at the bottom of the screen. If you are interested in the upcoming training, please use the same link to register yourself. Let's look at the configuration module today. Before that, I quickly sum up the agenda we are having today for this webinar. We will have an overview of Desktop Central. Then we will be having a look at the architecture behind how Desktop Central works. With regards to configuration and hidden tricks, which is what today's session is about, we will look at some scenarios, including how we can configure a baseline configuration and roll out USB restrictions to all the machines in a domain. We will also discuss some of the frequently asked questions with respect to tools and the configurations. In fact, even during the training, if you have any question, please feel free to chat with using the chat window. I have an expert panel with me who are ready to answer all your questions. What is Desktop Central? Desktop Central is an endpoint management solution that ensures all your endpoints are secure and enable the users to use them effectively for business. A popular research analyst called Foster defines UEM as follows: product that provide a centralized policy engine for managing and securing employee laptops and mobile devices from a single console. In unified endpoint management, you can manage endpoints in a traditional IT management fashion. This includes patch management, application management, configuration deployment, OS deployment, tools for troubleshooting, and day-to-day management activities. Similarly, endpoint can also be managed with modern management. All modern management systems support modern operating system. It supports features like geo-tracking, geo-fencing, managing store applications, profile distributions to enforce restrictions, operating system reset and recovery. Can you guess the popular operating system when I say modern operating system? Yes, it's Windows 10 is a classic example in which we can manage both traditional and modern management. Desktop Central can manage both the world's traditional and modern from a single console. These are the features that you can have leverage when you are using Desktop Central as a unified endpoint management solution. We have patch management, which takes care of operating system and third-party application patching. We have application management, asset management, and configuration. You can manage other functions, including mobile device management for iOS and Android, and even Windows and Chromebooks. Then we have modern management, which is for Windows and Mac machine. You can perform things like geo-tracking, complete or corporate-wide. You can put them on kiosk mode. you can distribute store apps and manage profile distribution. Then we have OS deployment, where you will be able to create a single master image and deploy it to multiple machines. Now, these are the features that are offered within Desktop Central suite, and all these features can be defined. The Desktop Central Unified Endpoint Management, you will be able to manage desktop, laptops, mobile phones, tablets, servers, point of sale devices, and browsers, all this from a single console. Desktop Central is recognized for Best Unified Endpoint Management Tool of 2019 as reviewed by customers in Gartner Peer Insight Customers' Choice Award. We are recognized for Unified Endpoint Management in Magic Quadrant for the second consecutive year. We are recognized for both traditional and modern management. Let's have a look at the Desktop Central architecture. Desktop Central is a client-server model application and an on-premises solution. You can have Desktop Central hosted in any one of the supported operating systems. This architecture talks about how you can manage the local area network. When it comes to wide area network, you can manage different remote locations from one console. They can connect either over the internet or using a VPN or MPLS connection. For the machines that are present in a remote site, which are connected over a direct internet connection, you can use a component called a secure gateway server. A secure gateway is a server that bridges the agent traffic to the central server securely when they connect over the internet. When it comes to remote location, we have a component called distribution server, which is used to throttle bandwidth for the data traffic between the central server and the remote location. We will talk about this in detail as we go into the training. We can choose to have the machine communicated either directly with the Desktop Central server or along with the distribution server. You will be able to manage all your mobile devices using a secure gateway too. With Desktop Central, you can manage multiple domains as well as workgroups. You can deploy configuration targeting Active Directory groups or organizational unit. So this is the architecture of how Desktop Central works. Next, we will talk about closed network. What is a closed network? A network which does not have a connectivity to internet or limited connectivity is called as closed network. Even if you have a closed network architecture, you can still use Desktop Central to manage your endpoints. Desktop Central is also available in AWS Marketplace and Azure. In case you are looking to host Desktop Central in any one of the cloud server, you can use AWS or Azure for now. We are also working towards offering Desktop Central as a cloud solution. Soon, Desktop Central will be available in Zogo Cloud. So we will look on the components, which is essential and optional for running Desktop Central in your infrastructure. The Desktop Central server is a central component that you will install. It provides the interface to the management console. The agent is an essential component. You need this to be installed on the machine that you want to manage. There is another component called the notification server, and this is an interesting component. We will talk more about this when we go into the product. When we look at the optional component, we have a distribution server, which serves as a repository for patches, softwares, scripts that you have deployed to machine in a remote office. We can create unique replication policy for each location as per the bandwidth requirement with help of distribution server. Then we have secure gateway server. This is useful if you are going to manage machines that are not part of the LAN or connecting over the internet. We also have the failover server. In case you want to have high availability, you can make use of this. This is separately licensed. Moreover, you can also use a language pack to list the web console in your preferred language. We support 3 operating systems for now: Windows, Macintosh, and Linux. Please find the list of supported operating systems on the screen. The application server runs on the Windows platform, but you can manage the endpoints with Windows or Mac or Linux operating systems. So these are the flavors we are supporting for the Linux, and you can manage Windows clients as well as Windows Server OS with the help of Desktop Central. In case you have questions, you can always reach out to support. Please refer to the email address shown at the bottom of the screen. Let's look on the agent installation method. Since it's a client-server model solution, we need to have an agent on the endpoints. So to facilitate agent installation, we recommend 3 methods. One is via group policy. You can simply download the application setup and push it using a GPO policy. Next one, we do have an automatic agent installation directly from the web console. You can add multiple domains and choose the machine from those domains and push out the agent to them. We also have scripts that you can use to install the agent. Alternatively, you can download the agent manually and execute the setup directly on the machine. And it shows that automatically report back to the Desktop Central console once the agents get installed on the end user's machine. Desktop Central can scale small as well as large networks using our 90 minutes refresh policy. What is 90 minutes refresh policy? Every agent communicates with the Desktop Central server once in 90 minutes. Even if you have 90 machines or 900 or even 9,000 machines, the 900 machines will be divided between them and each machine will be given a specific time to talk with the server. The server has the intelligence to assign a time for each client to talk to the server. This is to avoid network congestion or bandwidth related issues. So the 90 minutes refresh policy is designed in such a way that the load to the server will be split evenly. So these are the ports used by Desktop Central. Desktop Central runs primarily on 2 ports, 8383, which is HTTPS, and 8020, which is HTTP. All the agents talk to the server using this port. There is another port, 8027, which is TCP. This is used by the notification server. This port is used for all on-demand activities like installing patches, remote control, deploying a configuration. We will talk about the use of this port in the upcoming slide. Apart from these 2 ports, there are other optional components that you will have to open. The important ports are listed on the screen. You can also keep the respective ports open as per your requirements. There are a few other ports as well. You can view them using the link that is shown at the bottom of the screen. This will give you a better idea about the ports that are required. Let's move on to today's topic. Why configurations? Desktop Central configuration offers a system administrator to help administrate, manage systems settings, desktop settings, and security policies. That automates day-to-day system administrator's job and also protect your network and remediate your computers from data breaches and vulnerability. Now we discuss in detail about the agent installation process. Let us consider John and his team responsible for managing 10,000 endpoints. Let's see how we can implement Desktop Central in his infrastructure. Consider me as a John. This is how all the 10,000 endpoints spread out globally. My head office in Dallas, which has 3,000 endpoints, and I have 3 remote offices located in London, Bogota, and Chennai. And in Australia, our company is not having any office setup. These 500 users will connect with help of a VPN token to my office network to work on a daily basis. I have to manage these users over the internet too. First, we see how we can set up the product in Dallas office and agent installation on all these 3,000 machines. Let me take to the product UI. So this is a product UI of Desktop Central. You can download the binaries from the console, ManageEngine.com/product/Desktop Central. In the top right, you could see an option to download the product. You have 32-bit as well as 64-bit installer. It's hardly take 20 minutes to install the product in your infrastructure. So once the products get installed, you can access it with the help of a browser. It is a browser compatible tool. You can access it with the help of a machine name, followed by the port number, 8020 or either 8383, or with the machine name along with the port number. So the first thing, I have to tell Desktop Central what are the domains I'm going to manage with the help of Desktop Central here. So for that, I'm going to add a domain under the admin. I have an option to add a domain under the global settings. So this is the place you can add the domain here. So you can manage multiple domains and multiple work groups with the help of Desktop Central. So in order to add a domain, give the domain NetBIOS name and the username and password. So you can create a service account for Desktop Central with the domain admin privileges. So because the credentials which you are giving here is help us to install the agent remotely to the end user's machine. Furnish the domain admin name as well as the domain controller name here. So once the domain get added, you can see all the managed domains under the domain console here. So now we have added the domain. So the next part is to roll out the agent installation to the end user's machine on the Dallas office. So we will go to the admin, scope of management. So this is the place I need to tell Desktop Central what are the computers I want to manage with the help of this product. So in the scope of management, you'll be having an option to add a computer. So once you click add computer, it will list out all the domains which I added under the domain session. So I need to select what is the domain I want to get agent installed. So for example, I select a domain called ZogoCorp. It will list out all the domains which is under the ZogoCorp here and the OUs. So I need to select this particular OU. So in case I have all the 3000 computer on a specific OU, I will be selecting that particular OU. So it will get selected all the 3000 endpoints. So in the next tab, I'll be getting a button to install an agent on it. So once you hit install agent, whatever the credentials which you gave while adding the domain, it's going to access the admin $chef of this endpoint and copy the agent installer component and initiate the installation with the help of WM. So once the agents get installed, it will automatically report back to the console with the help of the agent server communication port, either by 8383 or 8020. So you can see the status of the agent live here. So in case if the machine is live or turned down, you can see the status from here. And moreover, how many computers the agents install, how many of them are succeeded, how many of them are failed from this UI itself. So here I have two computers as a live one. From the color code itself, I can understand what are the machines are alive or what are the machines are turned on. The green one shows the machines are turned on so that I can perform all the on-demand actions. Like I can do a chat with the end user, I can restart a machine, I can shut down it from here. The red one shows the machines are not in the network or turned off. We also have an option to wake on the computers from the Desktop Central itself. Desktop Central use the magic packets to wake up the machines on the other end and make the machines alive and brought back green in the console again. So that's how you install an agent in your local office. Next task is to provision or installing the agent, the machines which is on in my London location. So in order to manage my London location, I'm going to create a remote office here. So I need to give the name of that particular location, for example, London. And the communication type, how I want to manage those 2000 endpoints from my corporate office, through a distribution server or through a direct communication. So here we recommend to go with the distribution server. If I'm not having a distribution server, all the 2000 machines will coming over the WAN to my head office to download the patches and software. So it will consume more network bandwidth. In case if a patch is 1 GB, it is if you want to deploy to your 2000 endpoints from your corporate office, it's going to be 2000 GB over the WAN. It will reach the London location and get it deployed. If you have a distribution server on the London location, just 1 GB of a patch is going to replicate to the London location and it's going to redistribute over intranet. So that's the advantage of having a distribution server. You need to elevate any one of the machine which is in London location as a distribution server. So there is no need for any other additional hardware requirements for a distribution server here. It is just going to act like a file server for you. You're just going to give the NetBIOS name, and the computer name is going to act like a distribution server, and the IP address. On top of it, I also have an option to create a policy so that I can tell Desktop Central at what time I want to replicate the patches from my Desktop Central master server to this distribution server. Since my London office having just an 1 Mbps data link, I'm just going to allocate 512 kbps of data transfer. That is true for patch and software from my corporate office to London office. You can also define the data transfer rate also. Likewise, I'll be creating a remote office with a distribution server for my Chennai location as well as Bogota location, and I will be assigning different replication policies based upon the bandwidth which is available here. And also, I do have an option to install the agent from this console itself. So you have an option to add a computer. The same way, I can select which domain it is at the London office in. I can select a particular OU. So once you hit save, Desktop Central install the distribution server component in my London office. And with the help of the distribution server, it will distribute the agents through intranet and install to all the 2000 endpoints, which is in my London location. So that's how you create a remote office. So once the remote office get created, you could see what are the computers with under the remote office to that particular remote office name. So for example, I have few test remote offices here. You could see number of computers which is residing on that particular location here. The advantage of creating remote office here is, for example, I want to deploy a configuration or a patch for a specific location. I can use this name while targeting deploying a patch or a software here. So that's how you configure a distribution server to your remote office. So we have a peculiar case. So in Sydney, I'm not having a remote office here, so an office setup. So I want to connect those agents directly to the Desktop Center. So in order to do that, and moreover, I also have I also make sure I need to manage those machines over the internet. So that I'm going to assign a public IP to Desktop Central under the NAT setting, a public IP or a public FQDN. So Desktop Central uses public FQDN to connect the machines over the internet to deploy the patch or software. In case, if you don't want to move your Desktop Central to the edge of your network, you can also have a secure gateway in your DMZ zone. So all the WAN traffic from the internet is going to routed via secure gateway to the Desktop Central server. Just define the public address here, then create a remote office for the machines which you manage over the internet. So I'm going to the same place previously which I created a remote office for my London location, remote office, add remote office. So this is the IP address or the FQDN for the machines which you're going to connect over the internet. So here I need to change the communication type as a direct communication. So here I have an option to create a policy also at what time I want to replicate the patches from my corporate office to those machines which is connecting from the Sydney locations. I can define here. And also I have an option to push the agents from the console itself. So I can select a particular OU and I can push it from here. But here I'm not sure at what time the users will be connecting over the VPN. So in order to retry the agent installation for a specific days, we can define a policy in Desktop Central to try the agent installation for next few days. So here I'm configuring like it's going to deploy the agent for next 5 days. So in the 5 days, whoever connecting my infrastructure with a VPN, they are going to install or they are going to get the agent automatically. And it is also going to automatically send an email to the system administrator. So, and you also have an option to configure the IP scopes. You can use this feature to move computers automatically from one remote office to other remote office. So you need to add an IP scope here for each and every locations. If you have the DHCP scopes of each and every location, just assign the DHCP scopes here. Once it's done, so in case if a user moves from one location to other location, for example, if a user moves from London to Dallas, Desktop Central automatically understood the movement with the IP range I'm defining here. So that's another advantage of having an IP scope. And also, in case if a user taking a laptop to your home, you want to manage them over the internet. So you want to tell Desktop Central, those users you want to manage over the internet you also have an option to configure a default remote office. So by comparing this IP address, if any one of the endpoint was fails to be in this particular IP range, Desktop Central automatically move this machine under a default remote office that is called internet user. So Desktop Central understood I have to serve the deployment over the public IP to these machines. Likewise, you can automate the agent movement with the help of IP scope Desktop Central. In case if you have any questions, you can chat with our chat panel. They will happy to answer all your questions here. So that's how you implement the product in an infrastructure. Next thing, we'll talk about configuring a printer to a new user. So in Desktop Central, we have around 32 predefined configuration for Windows that will helpful for a system administrator to run his daily tasks. This will help you to eliminate the GPU dependency in your infrastructure. So even though the machines are in your work group, you can use this configuration to get it deployed. So you have two types of configurations in Windows, like you can deploy a configuration as a user-based or a computer-based. If you deploy it based on a user, whenever a user switches the computer, whatever configuration you deployed against that user, it will deploy it on the system startup. If you deploy it against your computer, it is limited for that particular computer box alone. So likewise, you can get use of all these 32 configuration to run his daily tasks. We also have configuration for Mac as well as Linux. Now, our task to install or configure a printer to a new user. I already created a configuration for it. So here I have an option like I'm just going to modify this configuration. I'm going to deploy it. So I'm going to deploy a printer to one of my new joining in my organization. So I'm just defining the printer name and the IP address and like at what path I want to download the drivers. I can define that. In case if that path needs a credential, I can also define here. And here I can choose which location that particular user in case if it is in a London location or in a different location. I can select that and I can search for the user here and you can very well deploy it. In case by mistake, if this user deleted the printer, Desktop Central, you have an option to automatically apply this configuration on every startup. So it looks for the configuration. If it is already present, it will ignore it, or else it will redeploy the configuration on every startup. So that's how you deploy a printer to a new joining. Next one, I'm just going to configure printer for a specific group of computers. We do also have an option to group the computers within Desktop Central itself. We have 3 types of groups. So you can create a group under admin, global settings, custom groups. So you can create a static, unique, or dynamic. So the difference between static and static unique is a same computer can be in multiple static groups. But in static unique, you'll be not having a same computer in a different static unique group here. It should be a unique group with unique computers. Dynamic, you can create a group based on a parameter, what I defined here. For example, I want to spin up a group which is satisfying this parameter like operating system equals to Windows 10, for example. Whatever the computers which is having Desktop Central agent on it and running Windows 10, it will automatically create a group for me. In future, if another computer, you onboard another computer with Windows 10, it will automatically add it to the dynamic group here. So that's how you create a group here. So I already have a group created for a specific group of computers. So I'm going to deploy this configuration to them. So I have this. So I'm just going to modify this configuration here. Configurations. So you have an option to deploy it for a particular computer. So I'm just furnished the printer name and the IP address of it. And here you can very well target it. So which location that particular computers are in. So you're not sure which location the computer is located. So I'm selecting all my remote offices, and then I'm targeting to that particular custom group. So these are the groups which I created with the help of Desktop Central. I'm just selecting that particular group, and I can very well deploy this now itself. So you have two buttons, deploy and deploy immediately here. So the difference between deploy and deploy immediately is, if you click deploy, this configuration is going to deploy on the next 90 minutes. So that's the next contact time of the computers, which is on this particular group. If you click deploy immediately, I believe you remember about the port 8027. We use this as a notification server. If you click deploy immediately, that 8027 invokes the computers which is on that particular group and deploy this configurations immediately. So that's how you deploy a configuration to a specific group of computers. Next, how I can create a baseline configuration as a collection. Now, when I say baseline configuration, imagine I want a list of tasks need to be created as a collection, and that has to be deployed for all the new and existing employees in my organization. So in this case, I can create a list of configuration, and then I'm going to target all this configuration in a single task. In Desktop Central, you have two types of collection. You can create a user-based collection as well as a computer-based collection. Here I'm going to create a computer collection. If a new employee is joined to my organization, he should have a specific display configuration as well as a browser configuration, and I have to map a network drive for him. So I have a predefined template for it. And also I do define some USB restrictions. So I'll be defining here. So for example, I want to define a default web browser. It should be Internet Explorer. I can configure the proxy for them. And also I can define the security settings, which URL you need to blacklist or whitelist from here. And moreover, the next job is to deploy a wallpaper, a default wallpaper to all the machines in my infrastructure. I can upload the file here. And the next one is to map a particular drive. So once the agents get deployed to that particular computer, it will automatically start deploying the browser configuration, displays, and driver. And I do add another configuration, which is Wi-Fi profile. It is also add the Wi-Fi profile on that particular computer. So next, I'll be targeting this configuration to my entire domain. So even though the new joinees or the existing employees who is in my organization, they are going to get all this 4 configuration in a single job. So that's how you create a baseline configuration as a collection with the help of Desktop Central. Next, configuring templates to secure desktops. So templates, whenever you create a configuration with the help of Desktop Central, you have an option to save it as a template. So the templates which you are helpful for means it will eliminate your time to recreate a configuration again and deploy to a different computer. So you can modify the template and you can get it deployed. In Desktop Central, you also have a predefined template. So this will come along with the product. Like in case I want to auto lock a PC, based on the computer request, based on the customer's request, we will be creating the template and publish the same with the product itself. So these are the predefined one. And also you have an option to create a user-defined templates. The user-defined templates will be helpful for you to close a ticket with help of Service Desk Plus. So in case if you are integrated Service Desk Plus with Desktop Central, that is our proprietary ticketing tool, you can very well create a template and advertise to our Service Desk Plus. In case if a user raises a request to install a new printer, I can advertise this template to the Service Desk Plus, and with the help of this template, I can resolve the ticket. So that's how you can create a template and get used of it. You can very well use a predefined as well as a user-defined one. Next thing, we'll talk about the USB device management. So here our task is to block USB in all computers, but I want to allow only managers to use USB devices, and even though the managers should use only the encrypted devices here. So USB management is one of the configuration which is for Windows in Desktop Central. So here I have an option to block an thumb drive or an IP camera or a floppy disk or a Bluetooth device or a printer or a modem. So you do also have an option to exclude a device. So in case if your IT team have 3 to 4 pen drives that have basic software that need to be installed for troubleshooting, you can add those instance ID of those thumb drive and you can exclude it. So you can very well select which thumb drive you want to exclude it. And also you have an option to exclude vendor-based instance ID too. In case in your infrastructure, you only want to use HP make pen drives, so you can very well add those instance ID here. So Desktop Central understood that particular vendor-based instance ID and allow the same in your infrastructure. The rest of the vendor make and model thumb drives is going to get blocked. Likewise, here you also have an option to only allow the encrypted devices. So here Desktop Central is going to only allow the encrypted device to be used in your infrastructure. So that's how you define the exclusion types with help of Desktop Central. So now I'm going to deploy this configuration to my entire domain, but I'm going to exclude the managers to only use the thumb drives in my infrastructure. So here I'm going to Windows. So I have a predefined template for it. So I can modify this. So I have an option to exclude it. What are the things I want to exclude? I can define here. So here I have an option to exclude the target. So I'm going to deploy this configuration to my entire domain as well as work group. But I want to make sure the managers computers, which is on this particular group, need to be excluded in this policy. Likewise, you can exclude a particular IP address or an IP range or an operating system or a particular OU that can be also excluded with the help of Desktop Central. So once you click deploy or deploy immediately, Desktop Central roll out or create a configuration for me that will help me to understand the status of the deployment on the other end. For example, I'm deploying this configuration to around 1,000 machines in my infrastructure. It will let you know how many machines it succeeded, how many machines get failed, how many machines are in progress. In case of a failure, you will be having an option with an error code here. So what is the reason for the failure? And you can modify the same configuration and redeploy it. So another advantage is, in case I deployed the configuration to 1,000 machines, but you're not sure how many targets got failed, Desktop Central has an option to automatically understood to deploy this template with the failed targets. So it will automatically grab the failed machine and redeploy this configuration for you. So that's how you can restrict the USB devices in your infrastructure. Let me quickly run through some scenarios and solutions for the configurations. We completely rely on Desktop Central for systems management, and we cannot afford downtime. What should we do? Downtime is a major threat for any organization. In Desktop Central, we have a failover server. In case if your primary server went down or not reachable, the agent will automatically talk to your secondary server and deploy the configuration. The primary servers can be deployed in your primary data center, and the secondary one can be deployed in your DR location, and that can be served with a shared MS SQL database. So the next one, if an agent is not accessed, can the computer be configured to go unmanaged and free that license? So here, Desktop Central, we have an option to define an SOM policy. So I can tell Desktop Central to monitor a number of days. For example, if a computer is not reached Desktop Central for example 90 days, it will automatically remove the computer from its management console and free up the license for you. So that's how you can automate the free upping license with the help of Desktop Central. Some of the computers go unmanaged quite often. Is there a way to fix it? So in this scenario, the end user might be uninstall the Desktop Central agent from their computer, or else they will be turned off or stop the services under the services.msc. In order to avoid it, you can also have an option to restrict the user from uninstalling the Desktop Central agent from the control panel and restrict the user from stopping the agent service. So this is a global settings. So if you enable this, the end user will not able to perform an installation as well as stopping the service of Desktop Central agent, which is running on their endpoint. So the next one, it is painful to redeploy all the configuration each time we hire an employee, add a computer to your network. Is there a way out? So with the help of Desktop Central, you have an option to automatically stage the machines. In the sense, whenever a new computer step into your organization, you can ask Desktop Central to install the agents automatically, and then whatever the configuration you have targeted against an OU or an AD group, it will automatically get deployed to the newly installed agent machines. So in order to do that, you need to go to the SOM policy again. So here I have an option to tell Desktop Central which OU I want to sync on a daily basis. For example, you have a separate OU that should be with new machines. So you can ask Desktop Central to sync on a daily basis. Whenever a new computer objects enter to this particular OU, Desktop Central has an option to automatically install the agent for you and send an email to the system administrator. So once the agents get installed, the new computer will report it to the Desktop Central UI. And once it's get reported, you have an option called configuration settings here. So if you enable the settings, when a new computer or a user is added to an OU or a group, whatever the configuration I targeted against to my domain or an OU or an AD group, it will get deployed during the system startup or else in the next 90 minutes, that is agent refresh cycle. So you can very well automate your staging process as well as your baseline with the help of Desktop Central here. Next scenario, I want Desktop Central to use the available system resources effectively for improved performance. What should I do? So in Desktop Central, you have an option to fine tune the database. So by default, we will be using PGSQL as a embedded database here. You can use PGSQL up to scale up to 7,000 endpoints. If you want to manage more than 7,000 endpoints, we recommend to have an MSSQL. So you have an option to optimize the DB. So you can tell Desktop Central how much memory consumption I have to use it on the allocated RAM here. So I can very well define it here, so that in case if you are running multiple applications on a same server, you can very well allocate a specific RAM for each and every product here with the help of Desktop Central. Next, these business data breaches and cyber security are fearsome. Can Desktop Central configuration can be of some helpful? Yes, we have a script repository here. So in case if you see any vulnerable in the internet, our customers will be reaching out and will be requesting for a workaround. So we will be creating a script or workaround for them. So we will be asking them to add the script in the script repository here. So these are the supported script formats. So you can upload a script for a Windows-based machine or a Mac endpoint or a Linux machine here. So once the script is get added, you can very well roll out the script with help of Desktop Central configurations. So you have a custom script configuration here. So I can roll out to the particular computer which is affected with the vulnerability. So I can very well search for the script from my repository. So it will list out all the script in my repository. I can target here. In case if it is having any dependency file, I can add the dependency file here. I can ask Desktop Central how frequency I want to execute the script. Only once or every startup or every 90 minutes of the agent refresh cycle or during every startup. That can be defined here. And moreover, in case if an end user is not having a sufficient privilege to run the script, you can very well give a technician credential which is having a privilege to install or run the script here. So Desktop Central take this credential and run the script silently on the end user's machine to whatever the machine you targeted. For example, let us consider some vulnerability on a Windows 10 machine in your infrastructure. You can very well target that script deployment to a particular operating system called Windows 10 here. So it is going to only deploy to the Windows 10 operating system in your infrastructure. So that's how you prevent vulnerabilities. And next thing, I need to keep track on asset data even when I am away from my desk. Is this possible? Yes, it's possible. Desktop Central have a remote app here. You can download it from Play Store or from Apple Store. So once it's get downloaded, you have an option to know your asset data, and also you have an option to take a remote control from the management app itself, and you can troubleshoot the issue on the same. Next thing, I want to restrict a technician to only access asset data. How can I do it? So in Desktop Center, the privileges can be assigned based on a role which you are creating and assigning to a technician. I can create a role and assign it to a technician under the admin user administration here. So here I have an option to create a role. I can customize whatever depends upon a need. I can customize a role. For example, I only want to dedicate the patch deployment to an L2 technician. So you can create a role for only to deploy the patches. So he will be seeing a patch management console in the Desktop Center. So in our case, I want to create a new user and I want to make sure he will be only managing my inventory data here. So by default, we will be having an IT asset management role in Desktop Center. So I can very well have an AD-based user, or else I can create a local authentication with help of Desktop Center. And moreover, I can assign all computers. Also, I can define or I can create a particular group, a static unique group. So for example, he only want to manage the server operating systems alone. You can create a static unique group of servers and assign that servers to that particular person. Likewise, you can delegate an access to the particular person to manage a particular remote office. That is also feasible. For example, I want to assign only one remote office to this user. Yes, it's done. So whatever the computers, for example, I have 2000 computers in my London remote office. He only can manage those 2000 computers with the help of Desktop Center. So you are able to modify a configuration or deploy a patch or deploy a software to only the assigned remote offices to that particular user. Next thing, I want to ensure my user recognize and trust the application. How do I achieve it? We do have an option to rebrand in Desktop Center. So in Desktop Center, you have an option to modify. You can very well upload your company logo as an agent icon, as well as the web login screen. So it is going to change. It is going to replace your company logo here. So the end user can see this in the system tray. They will be seeing your company logo here instead of Desktop Center icon, which is showing here. And moreover, you also have an option to get the reports with your company logo. So whatever the logos you modified here, you can export the report with the same logo imprinted on it. So let me talk about the questions. So the first one, does Desktop Central allows you to block USB device for particular IP range? Yes, you have an option to block the USB devices to a particular IP range. Consider the same configuration. So I'm going to deploy the same configuration to a particular IP range. So I can define here. So I can define this starting and end range of this IP. So I can deploy to a particular IP range. And moreover, in case if you want to exclude any particular IP address, that can be also done from here. Can website security certificates be deployed to workstation and to multiple browsers? Yes, we have a predefined configuration, which is called certificate distribution here. So with the help of this, you can distribute a certificate to a particular user or a particular computer. So you can add a certificate on a particular store. So you can select which store you want to add the certificate. So you need to give the certificate file and its password. So Desktop Central will deploy this configuration to whatever the machines you are targeting in this configuration. So that's how you distribute the certificates with the help of Desktop Central. Some keyboards and monitors have embedded USB ports. Will these ports also be blocked despite having the keyboard and mouse option excluded from the block? Desktop Central takes the information from the device manager, even if they are using it as a part of a monitor or part of a keyboard. They will be termed as individual devices. We can get the instance ID and get it blocked with help of Desktop Central. Can the 90 minutes refresh policy can be changed? 90 minutes refresh policy is designed to optimize the bandwidth of the reduced network performance issues. So we will not be able to modify this because when it goes for a bigger network, 90 minutes refresh policy is a key optimum server performance here. However, if you want to deploy a configuration immediately, you can use deploy immediately option to deploy a configuration on demand to the end user's machine. How GDPR compliant is Desktop Center? We have a team which is usually working on GDPR, and we have come up with a feature when we have an admin. So the admin can choose which values need to be masked in the export settings here. In case I'm exporting a report, I have an option to mask which values no need to expose to the end user. I can mask the computer name as well as the user who logged in here. And also you have a DPO dashboard here. So it will actively reporting what are the machines which is having AV disabled and how many of them are vulnerable systems and what type of data you want to get it collected and where it stores and how effectively it gets used. You can define it on the data protection officer dashboard here. Next question, if you configure a set of restricted sites in the collection wizard, but you didn't select a web browser, does the restriction apply to the default web browser or all the browser? By default, it will apply the configuration to the default browser which is allocated on the machine. How to check the security levels of Desktop Central, or how secure is my Desktop Central here? So you have an option under the security settings to import a certificate from a third party. So you can very well generate a CSR. So we will be giving you steps to generate a CSR here. You can generate a CSR and give it to third party and get a certificate on it and upload the same. And also you can enforce HTTPS login to the Desktop Central console, and you can set a complex password. And you also have an option to have a two-factor authentication. So that will increase the security score of Desktop Central here. Next question, is there a way to optimize the power consumption level in my network computers? Yes. So to distribute the power schema, we have a separate configuration for the Windows machines here. So you can create a power schema and deploy to the machines which you want to roll out in your infrastructure. So you have a power management configuration here. So you can create your own power schema. So what is the time you want to turn on the computer or turn off the display here? You also have some advanced settings. So in case if a password is needed when a computer is in from sleep, you can define here. And you can create your own power schema, or you can modify an existing power schema in that computer, or you can delete the schema which is already deployed on that particular computer. So you just need to target whatever the computers you want to get deployed and then roll out the configuration on the same. So the next thing, what happens to the computer if any of the target machine computers are down? So here in Desktop Central, as I told earlier, you have an option to apply the configuration on every startup. In case during the time of deployment, if the computer is turned off or else in a different network, once it's came back to our network or it's turned on, Desktop Central automatically deploy this configuration for you and post the user success status. And you also get an email on the status of the deployment, either succeeded or failed or in progress to the system administrator inbox automatically. So the next thing, my user has deleted the created desktop shortcut. Should I redeploy the configuration? Yes. So you can use the same option. So you can, so if the configuration is get deleted, during the next system startup, Desktop Central agent looks for that particular configuration. If you enable this, if it is not there, it will deploy this configuration again and post the status to Desktop Central. If a workstation is not in domain, can we manage workstation in work groups? Yes, you can very well manage the machines which is on work groups. In case if your Mac machines or Linux machine which is not in part of an AD, we can have a predefined work group for Linux as well as Mac machines, and you can very well install the agents on those and get it managed. The prime requirement is those machines should reach the Desktop Central server to get the configurations so that you can get managed with help of this product. So that's all for today. Kindly rate us on this training out of 1 to 5, where 5 is the best. And you can also have an option to connect it over the social media here. And well, we completed the configuration training for today. And thank you very much for joining and taking your valuable time and patience in listening to my training session. I hope this was helpful. If you like to have a personalized demo, you can also ask to my panel team. So a dedicated technical consultant will be scheduling a call to you, and depends upon your infrastructure requirement, they will help you to implement the product in your infrastructure. Once again, thank you for joining this training session.